OmiseGo crypto technical analysis, and we're on the monthly chart. And just to recap, the last time we spoke about this particular cryptocurrency, we had mentioned that the market had given us this overextended double top, which has a neckline at that point. And we said that whenever we have these, ideally we want to see price breaking sufficiently below the neckline, and then in the future, come back to the neckline to tested, and at that point is where we would have looked for further sell opportunities, as we can see that the market at this point in time, just based on the monthly chart, is in a downward trend. And unfortunately, we never really got to see a price come back to the neckline to give it a test. Nonetheless, having said that, it is still quite possible that we may see price come back to that level to give it a test, and at that point we may potentially again see the market move further down. And not only is this level the neckline of this double top over here, it's also a very strong level of resistance at this point in time. So I'm just gonna add my resistance level over here, and just also keep in mind that support and resistance are not lines like I have here. So we could say, in other words, that this whole area is our resistance area, right? As support is not, or rather resistance is not a line, but rather an area. But just for purposes of making sure that my drawings are as clean as possible, for now I'm just going to make it a line. I'm just going to put it over here. That would be a very strong level of resistance, as well as the neckline of that overextended double top, which we have here, right? I hope you guys can see that. What else do we see on the monthly chart that we should be paying attention to? At this point I don't see much, but I also want to mention that as much as I'm saying that we may see price come back to that level and potentially move further down, just bear in mind also that this structure actually has played itself out. It started here more or less, and we can see that price closed more or less in line with where that structure had started. So nonetheless, it is still quite possible that we may see price come back to that level and from there push further down, especially because if you were to look at this area over here, you would see that we have what seems to be a W structure or a double bottom. And you also know that whenever we have these, just like with M structures, a lot of traders and investors actually buy at that point and they place their stop losses below. So it is quite possible that we may actually see price from where it is currently move all the way to the neckline of this double top, which is also a very strong level of resistance, and then push further down to grab all of those stop losses that are located here, and then only move further up, right? So what I'm doing at this point in time is just speculating and showing you some of the outcomes that we've been counting as far as the OmiseGo crypto goes. Anyway, from here I'm just going to head down to the weekly chart, and here we are on the weekly chart. Let's have a look. Remember, on the monthly chart I spoke about how price or the market had given us this double bottom, and I said that a lot of traders and investors actually bought there, placing their stop losses below, and that we may potentially see the market move further up to that level to test it, which is also a very strong level of resistance, as well as the neckline of that double top. And at that point again, we may see potentially price moving further down to grab those stop losses that are located here, right? But what else do we see, guys, at this point, now that we are on the weekly chart? On the weekly chart, remember guys, on the monthly chart I said we have this overextended double bottom, but on the weekly chart we can also see that we have another smaller structure here, which is also an overextended double bottom, as that first leg is much lower than that second leg. And at this point in time, I think it is more important than this bigger structure. I just hope my drawings are not too confusing, but I'm just going to add a neckline for now for that W structure. Just bear with me. Here we go. We could say more or less that this is the neckline of this particular W structure or double bottom. And also we can see that in as far as the weekly chart goes, we are in an upward trending market, which tells us that we may be getting ready to see the market move from this level and all the way to that level, right? I hope you guys can see that. And as I always say as well, whenever we have these double structures, we want to see price again closing above the neckline, which it has done here, and then in the future come back to the neckline to test it. And at that point where the neckline is where we would look for further buy opportunities, especially if the neckline has any or rather aligns with any key numbers that we have on the Fibonacci retracement tool, right? So we want to see price, as I said, come back to the area to give it a test, and at that point is where we may potentially look for buy opportunities, and our first take profit should be around this level over here, right? I also want to point out that we have this candlestick over here, And as you can see, it is a bullish candlestick with a small body and quite a long upper wick, and where that wick ends at the top, you guys know that we have a lot of liquidity there, right? And it also motivates for why we may potentially see price actually move all the way up and at least to that level, right? But what else do we see at this point? At this point, I really don't see much. So what I'm gonna do is head down to the daily chart, and let's see what's happening on the daily chart. Here we go. Here we are on the daily chart. And remember, guys, that on the weekly chart, we spoke about how we have this overextended double structure, a double bottom, which has a neckline there. And we said that we can see the price has closed above that neckline, and we want to see it come back to the neckline to give it a test. And at that point where the neckline is where we may look for potential buy opportunities, especially if the area aligns with any key numbers that we have in regards to the Fibonacci retracement tool. And also we are in an upward trending market, as you can see, which means that for the most part we should indeed be looking for potential buy opportunities, right? I hope you guys can see that. So I'm just going to utilize the Fibonacci retracement tool just to see if this neckline of that W structure actually aligns with any key numbers that we have on the structure, because we said we want to see price come back to the level which it has done here, right? So let's see Fibonacci, just bear with me. Let's have a look. Let's see. So I would have my Fib tool more or less in this manner. There we go. And guys, we can see that the neckline, which is over here of this bigger W structure, we could say more or less aligns with the 50% Fibonacci retracement tool. And as I said, price came back to the level to get a test, and at this point is where we may potentially look for buy opportunities, right? So far we have a few reasons for why at that level we should be looking for buy opportunities. Remember, number one, if we can just zoom out a bit, number one, we have this bigger W structure. Number two, we have price closing sufficiently above the neckline. Number three, we have price coming back to the neckline to give it a test. And number four, we have the neckline aligning with the 50% Fibonacci retracement tool. And the last reason is that the very same level is a very strong level of support at this point in time, and it gives us confidence in as far as looking for potential buy opportunities goes at this point in time, right? Anyway, I'm just gonna zoom in and let's have a look, right? I think the one thing that we're missing at this point is that we need a reversal candlestick pattern of sorts, right? Something like railroad tracks, right? Something like this, where this one would be bearish, right? And this one would be bullish, and both patterns would be more or less the same, or rather both candlesticks would be more or less the same size. Or we want to see this pattern over here, right? Something like this, where this would be bearish and this one would be bullish, and we would have this particular candlestick there, right? So this is also a reversal candlestick pattern. Or we want to see a pin bar, right, where price actually gives us something like this, right, where we get a bullish candlestick that has a small body and a very long lower wick, right? So these patterns would indicate, or rather add as further confluence, right, and give us further confirmation that indeed we should be looking for potential buy opportunities. Having said that, we're not just going to buy just by virtue of having all of those patterns. We need further reasons and further confirmation before we actually buy, right? Just also bear in mind that as much as I'm saying that this area over here may be a good area to be looking for potential buy opportunities, that the market had also given us this opposing structure, which is an overextended double top, which also has a neckline there, right? So now that we have this means that actually buying or selling over here for that matter is actually risky, and that is because we have two opposing structures, right? Remember, guys, we have, if I can just draw it, we have that W structure, right, on the weekly chart, and then price came back to the neckline to give it a test, which is over here, and then at the very same level, which is over here, we have a double top, which is this double top, right? So this means that we may see price actually do this, right, because we have a double top there, right? So price may potentially, right, close below the neckline, head up to the neckline of that double top, and then potentially move the down, right? So we just need to be careful, but for the most part I would be looking for buy opportunities. Anyway, let's head down to the H4 chart and let's see what's happening down there. And just to recap again, remember on the daily chart we spoke about how price had given us this double top and that we may potentially see the market move further down, right? So we need to be careful. On the H4 chart we can see that the market is in a downward trend, right, or a downward trajectory. And I'm just gonna add my, just bear with me, I'm just gonna add my channel. Let's see, how would I add my channel? More or less I would do it in this manner. Let's see, I would add my channel more or less in this manner, right? And also we can see that the market has given us, or rather is in the process of potentially giving us, an inverted head and shoulders pattern, where this would be the left shoulder, this would be the head, and this may potentially be the right hand shoulder. And remember, we're at a very strong level of support. And remember guys, that I said at this zone is where we may potentially look for buy opportunities. And in fact, the best thing maybe for us to wait for price to close above that trend line, right? If it does indeed give us this inverted head and shoulders pattern, once price closes here, I think it would be good to potentially buy. Well, let me speak for myself. I would look for potential buy opportunities once price closes above this trend line, right? As the anticipation is for the market to move further up. And my first take profit should be, if I can just zoom out, let me see. In fact, I'm gonna go back to the daily chart, right? And as I said, my first take profit should be, let's see, my first take profit should be around here. Why do I say that level? That is because that level is a very strong level of resistance. Remember guys, to add to that, it is the neckline. If I can just go back to the weekly chart, just bear with me. To add to that, the very same area is the neckline, right? It's the neckline of this double top over here. I hope you guys can see that, right? And remember I said that at this point is where again we may potentially see the market move further down, right? So I hope what I said makes sense, and peace out everybody.